So we got to wrap this course up together. This is our last class. And this is where we left off last time. We were talking about the 3 C's. We were talking about how you show up calm, confident, compassionate, and how the brain, when you can do that, that shapes the brains of other people and brings them into a state where they can bring their most powerful capabilities of the prefrontal cortex back online when they're gone limbic, right? And we talked about a process answer and how not knowing exactly what we're going to do is okay as long as you have telling them what the plan is to figure that out. And that's a really powerful thing to be able to do. That goes about 80% of the way of calming people down and bringing them back into a space where they can contribute to solving the problem or continuing with the work that has to be done. So let's take it the next step. Finally, stay the course. Don't try to do it alone. Share the power. Now, all the movie-making industries around the world, Hollywood, Bollywood, and I know there's others around the world that produce these big, grandiose films and stuff like that. They love the idea of a hero figure solving the big crisis for everybody else, right? The leader knew all along how to overcome all the trials and then and vanquish the bad guys in the end, right? And the brain loves that. Every culture has the same hero motif, and it really appeals to our brain in a lot of ways. And that actually comes out of the grand narrative stuff we were talking about as well. That all grand narratives have this hero image embedded in them. But that's not the way reality works. Okay? It's lovely to watch a film like Master and Commander, which is this ship's captain who no matter what's happening that's bad out there, he's always knows one step ahead, and people are doubting, and then he pulls it off again, right? And he does it all by himself. And that's the classic motif, but that's not the way reality works. This is not why we have teams. The reason we have teams is that brains working well together with other brains solve bigger and better problems. Right? That's absolutely critical. So don't try to go it alone. Don't feel like you've got to be this hero figure. The mission might just have got more complex, but the mission remains the common reason why everybody's coming together. And people are actually going to invest more in an outcome that they have participated in creating. That's the engagement of the brain that happens, okay? So the mission is the one thing that remains familiar, focuses attention on habits, routines, rituals, and familiar interaction patterns. So if we always have a TPT meeting on Tuesdays at 8 o'clock, continue to have that familiar, focused, and routine meetings on Tuesday at 8 o'clock. What's a TPT meeting? I don't know, I just made it up, but different companies have different standard meetings, right? I told you, in our practice, we have Friday afternoon O groups. And O groups are central to us making sense of the week we've just been through and planning for our next week. And they're a way to connect and way to feel connected, because we were working virtually even before the pandemic. We seldom are all in one place at one time. So that's the familiarity. Familiarity, when you're going down limbic, is actually a way to bring us back a little bit at least into the prefrontal, especially in a VUCA world, right? Volatile, uncertain, complex, and so if you're going to compromise the value of the organization and responding to crisis, you've got to have a good reason, and you've got to say it. So here's a situation that we face, and I'm going to be relating this back. We have a major client where we do lots of work with them, but every 2 years they have us conduct a massive employee opinion and satisfaction survey over 3,000 employees, 7 production facilities throughout North America, 3,000 employees, okay? And not only do we do the survey, but then we compare the results of this survey to all the previous surveys. We've done it 8 times. This event that I'm going to tell you about happened at number 5, okay, for 5th iteration. And what happened in this situation was that one of our statisticians, one of our lead statisticians, was preparing to get all this data from 3,000 surveys and put it into data sets to do the statistical analysis. So our qualitative analysis team was already working on the qualitative components of the survey, but he was getting all of these, and we have 78 questions. Now, that's what it was for the first 4 iterations, 78 questions. But the client wanted to add in one more question. Now, the way that this all worked, though, is that 78 questions get at 9 different aspects of organizational life. Satisfaction with senior management, 5 questions on that. Satisfaction with middle management, okay, 5 questions on that. Satisfaction with supervisory management, 5 questions on that. Satisfaction with pay and benefits, 5 questions on that. All goes up. Not everyone had 5, but multiple questions on each one of these, okay? So we're reporting not on 78 questions necessarily, but on 9 dimensions of employee satisfaction with things. The client wanted to add another question in on something that they innovated on. And so, no problem, you can add in the question. And then we're going to compare all the results from number 5 iteration to the previous 4 over the last question. Now, the vice president of HR is the one who commissions this work, has us do it on their behalf, and she uses this data to make their projections for the next 2 years, their strategic plan for HR for the next coming 2 years. And that's going to go into the budgeting process for the corporation, well in advance of setting the budget, because she sets her priorities and then says this is what HR is going to need to achieve these priorities for the next 2 years. So it's not just interesting, this is part of their strategic planning process of the corporation overall. So our statistician, I'll call him Ryan in this case, we're about 2 weeks away from delivery. This is obviously like a 6-month undertaking from the time we start to roll out the surveys to the employees to the time that we're delivering the report. And everybody on our team is involved in this. It's very intense, it's very exciting, it's very fascinating work. We're able to see how different production facilities are doing relative to the last 4 times on measures, things like that. Absolute gold to the HR division of this corporation, and they very much value it. So we're 2 weeks away from delivery. We've been working on this for 6 weeks now, right? 6 months. And Ryan calls me up. I'm still in bed. It's an early Sunday morning, and I, he doesn't call me early Sunday mornings, and so of course I'm going to answer this, right? And I pick up, and I know who it is because it shows on my phone. And Ryan said, Ted, I don't know how to tell you this. And I said, what is it? And I'm still kind of waking up, right? And he said, I've made a horrible mistake. I said, okay, well, what is it? Problems are solvable. We'll figure out what happened. He said, I didn't take into account the new question. And so all the data sets have gone into these massive spreadsheets. And each of the 5 questions, or subscales, are now polluted by the previous one. Because instead of 5 questions on satisfaction with senior management, it's shifted this way. And now we have 4 questions on senior management, and then one of them relating to middle management, which sinks the whole data set, right? It pollutes the whole data set. And that's for every scale. And he said, I can't tell you how sorry I am. And I said, Ryan, okay, just thank you for telling me. Okay. And I said, I'm going to contact the team. So I reach out to the entire team, we pull them together, we have a Zoom call. And I explain the situation. Ryan doesn't want to be there. He's so ashamed of himself. He's just, I feel sick, right? Because, hey, this is one of our major clients. But he doesn't want to be there on that particular call. And I say, okay, right? We're going to be bringing you back in. We're going to get through this. And so the team, I brief the team on the situation. And I don't say, Ryan did this. I say, this is what's happened. Okay? And of course, they know Ryan's the one that's doing it. I'm not saying, well, Ryan's to blame, right? And they go, oh my gosh, this is huge. This is incredible. And I said, okay, well, if we get the data set, Ryan has already gone back and he's making the correction and changing the columns and whatnot. If we get the data, we've already written most of the reports. There's 8 reports to go out, 1 per production facility, 1 overall. Okay. They start to problem solve. And they say, okay, if we come in, if we work weekends, we could probably do it. You got 2 weeks to delivery. We could probably do it 2 more weeks. I said, what about 3 weeks? They said, yeah, that's probably more likely. I said, okay, I'm going to take that to the client. So I took that, and my next call, because we now had a plan as to what we were going to do. First I called Ryan, said, Ryan, here's what we want to do. You get ready and you correct the data set. Got it, it was already on it, right? It was associated with it. So anybody can make this mistake. This is an absolute honest mistake. It's just an oversight, right? And anybody can do that. It's not malicious in any way, but it felt terrible. The team didn't go, oh God, what an idiot. No, there was like, okay, any of us could have made this mistake. How are we going to fix it? Okay? So we curated a plan. My next call after Ryan was to the client. This is about 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday. And I called the vice president of HR and I tell her the situation. She's pretty quiet, right? And I said, here's what we can do to fix this, but we will need 3 additional weeks before we can deliver it. And she was still, she was over it, but she was quiet. She said, okay, I'll do that. Now she could have taken hours, days, whatever she wanted to get back to us. We're moving forward anyway, but we also know that they may scrub the whole thing. And we say, if you guys can't deliver, then we're just not going to go ahead with this, right? They haven't paid us for very much of the work, and we may just have to absorb the cost. She got back to us in half an hour. And what she said was, well, obviously we're very disappointed by this, but you didn't have to tell us. You could have processed that data just the way it was and sent us that data, and we would never have known. We would never have known. We would have made decisions on the basis of faulty data, and you didn't do that. Take the extra 3 weeks. Okay? Now, we're on iteration 8. That was number 5, so obviously we kept the client. And the whole team came together, and we worked through weekends, and it was top 5 weeks, right? And we all gave time after that event. We actually postponed other work with clients who we knew were flexible and things like that to give people time off, have more time with families, things like that. Everybody came together, everybody wrapped around that situation, okay? So that was an internal VUCA environment that we had to contend with. And everybody had intense feelings, including me. I did not feel calm, confident, and compassionate. But that's how I had to show up for Ryan, and that's how I had to show up for the team, and that's how the team showed up for me and for Ryan and for each other, okay? And that was a to us. We feel that's true. So we're not dealing with 15% of our workforce who are resistant against us bringing our calm, confident, compassionate selves to the workplace. But invariably, you will encounter some of these individuals, and hopefully, with your knowledge base, you'll be able to remove them from the organization, or at least contain them. Right? That's why we spend so much time understanding these individuals. Next, what's the language of the Little Stars that they use to calm other people's limbic systems? Okay? Well, these are phrases that individuals have used. I gave you that phrase around the process solution. I don't know exactly what we're going to do, but here's how we're going to figure it out. Okay? And that's what I was doing with my team when I brought them together and said, we've got a statistical problem with the data, and here's what it is. How do we move forward with that? I don't know, but I know we collectively are going to do that. So that was the process answer, right? In that case. So it's things like this. Thank you for bringing this to me. Problems are solvable. Let's work together to figure this out. Now look at the psychology there. First of all, I'm not saying, what is it now? God, every time I see you, you have another problem for me, okay? Or are you gonna wanna bring me your problems, right? You're gonna bury them. You're not going to, right? And we've seen this in organizations. Oh man, there's a major problem. You wanna tell the boss? I'm not telling the boss. Let the boss figure it out for themselves. And so the problem festers and festers and festers. I want to know about a problem early on. But what people with low ego maturity, right, low social and emotional intelligence do is they blame the messenger. And you've heard that phrase maybe, it's within this culture, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you the bad news. I'm not the maker of the bad news. Now, in Ryan's case, he did technically make the bad news, but that doesn't matter. Any of us could make this mistake. So I didn't go, you incompetent fool. I said, okay, we're going to figure this way out. He said, what do you want me to do, Ted? What do you think we should do, Ryan? I can start working on the data set in case we can continue with the project. Let's do that. So he felt like, okay, I can control this. I can adjust the data set. So I let him go and do that, and I brought it back to the team. Okay. So thank you for bringing this to me. And that's inclusion, right? That's the benevolence, the calm and the confident and the compassionate, right? Yes, we're in this together. Problems are solvable. That's the calm, confident, and let's work together to solve this or work this out, right? And that's again the benevolence. We are on side. Okay, we're on side. We're on the same side. Versus, well, it sucks to be you. You've got quite a problem now. No, we're going to solve this together. So you look at the way words can shape the biochemistry of somebody else's brain. And if you're even further in doubt, what do the words to somebody who you love, I love you, do to that person's brain? That shapes that brain. That shapes the brain of that child who's looking at you and wants your love, or the person that you're romantically in love with, or to your well-loved parent, right? I swear I never said those words to my high-conflict grandmother. Never heard those words from me. Okay. So words shape biochemistry. And words are coming from your brain, and you're setting the biochemistry of your brain, even if you're not feeling it so much. I wasn't feeling confident, compassion in that situation, but I pushed myself because I screw up too. And if I'm going to beat up my team or a team member for screwing up, they have every right to do that. They don't, right? When I make a mistake, they wrap around me. Here's somebody who's emotionally very agitated. Your reaction's perfectly normal. You're allowed to feel what you need to feel. It's how we choose to respond that matters next. We're going to validate the person's emotions. It's okay to feel what you're feeling right now. And what we're going to do. Here's the key. Remove but from your lexicon when you're speaking English. I imagine there's a similar word. But, right? That's a good idea, but is very different than that's a good idea and, right? Very different. But says, but there's something profoundly wrong with what you're saying. So I'm very careful to say that's a great idea or that's a good start and we need to consider this. Okay? That's the key. So language matters, and that's why, and I'm going to post all of this stuff. I want you to have it, for you as you go forward. So you're allowed to feel what you want. Where are you at? This is somebody who's really agitated. They're like totally limbic, maybe even brainstem, right? Where are you at? I'm asking them to tell me some information. That helps them go prefrontal. And then where do you want to be? Now they're imagining where they need to be. That only happens in the prefrontal. They may struggle to get there, but it's inviting them into the prefrontal cortex. Let's look how we are going to work together to get you there. Okay? Again, inclusion. We're in this together, right? That's that compassionate part, that benevolence part. We all make errors. As long as we have done our best without malice, our conscience is clear. We'll have made the best decision we could at the time. This is that person who's like beating themselves up because they made a decision and nothing went the way they were expecting it to go. Well, when I get a room full of leaders like you guys together and I say, how often, what percentage of the time do you have all the information you want when you have to make a leadership decision? And invariably, they all hold up and they go 0%. Well, in a VUCA world, you have even less reliable information, but you still got to make the decisions, right? So this is so all of these are phrases. You can mix and match, and you can take. But if you're doing it from that calm, confident, compassionate space, you're going to find the right language to use in those situations. Okay. All right. Now here's how all the 3 C's come together. This is so amazing. Brains influencing brains. But we've been kind of assuming that it's your brain influencing their brain, and you're going to see how their brain's going to influence your brains right back in the same moment. Because here's what happens, right? Brains mutually influencing brains. You create the 3C organization of self. Their limbic alarm system starts to calm down because you show up and you're saying, okay, team, I see we're in a crisis situation. Problems are solvable. Tell me what the situation is, okay? And so they're bringing forward the information that we need, the good information. They're not going to hide it. They're not going to bury it, right? Their emerging 3C organization of self reinforces your 3C organization of self. As they go from agitated and panicked to calmer and more prefrontal, that's influencing your brain. You're getting the data. You're feeling like we're getting closer to a solution. So it's reinforcing. So you're going from I'm pushing myself to be 3Cs to I'm becoming 3Cs because I'm not in this alone either. Right? Because we don't like to be alone. That's a big deal. This reinforcement builds within the team and starts to work on one another. Okay? So it's all the brains. Your people who are technically you have power over are actually influencing your brain too as they. So the team brain shift from alarm to calm, and the collective narrative shifts from the leader having to say, I got this, to everyone saying, we've got this. Okay? And that is a much more powerful place of strength and confidence than doing it alone. So, we'll have a break after this, but I want to share this piece of psychology that's some of the most brilliant psychology I've ever encountered, and it's not from psychology. From a woman who was a leader of the civil rights movement in the United States, who's an author and a poet and a terribly wise woman. Her name is Maya Angelou. She's since passed away, but this is absolute brilliant psychology. She said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget what you did. Okay? That is powerful psychology. That is hitting on the limbic system. For both perspectives, right? Both perspectives. Because, you know what? If former Captain Mike Mitchell ever called me up and asked for a favor, he was somebody who was a grandiose narcissist who tried to make me feel about this big and made every mistake you could possibly imagine before WSR's Canadian Forces. I still remember how he made me feel, and I wouldn't lift a finger to help him. But if Lieutenant Colonel Bob Beck or Lieutenant Colonel Don Beatty, who are both retired from the Canadian Forces today, called me up and said, Ted, would you do this for me? I would say, how fast do you want it, sir? Because of the way they made me feel. I'm deeply loyal. I'm proud to say their names. I know you'll never meet them, but their names should be said. Because they're good, decent people who treated people with dignity and respect, no matter what was going on. And I screwed up under both of them. And they didn't throw me under a bus. They said, okay, Ted, problems are solvable. Let's get to it, right? So that piece of psychology, if you take nothing else, that's power right there. So take 5. I'm going to give 5 because we got lots to cover off to wrap things up, okay? So let's pull this all together and add in a little bit that is something we've been talking about throughout the entire course together, but haven't been able to get to in a big way just yet. So we just know, to sum this up, the limbic brains and brainstem's antidote to fight, freeze, flee, and fold is calm, confident, and compassionate. Right? Create that organization of self. I struggled that Sunday morning to pull that out. I was just waking up, and that was a really tough time to do it. I will never regret having pulled that together for Brian and for our team. Okay. So the idea here is to organize myself to organize others. How brains influence brains, right? So don't let people pull you into their limbic storm. Rather, pull them into your prefrontal cortex. That's what you're doing. That's the ball. Okay. Now, we're talking about social power, telling you how important it is throughout the course. There's social power. We're not going to be able to spend as much time as I want on it, but I'm going to give you an overview of it so that you can understand so much of what we've been talking about together and how it all comes together with the 3 C's. Social power, by the way, about a year from now, I'm hoping that we will complete the book that we're writing about the 13 forms and the 2 vectors of social power. I'll be posting all of this, and only the beginning of this semester we're doing 12 forms of social power. We're doing new insights and new innovations in it. I'll be happy to share it with you, okay? But let me give you an overview. First of all, so there's 13 forms, but each of the 13 forms is being expressed in one of 2 or both vectors at the same time, and that is the threat and the reward. Okay? Now think threat and reward, and think about what part of the brain is responding to a power attempt, no matter what form of power I'm using. Where is power hitting us? It's either a threat or a reward. Where is that kicking in? You guys know this. Where does it hit us? Where do we experience power? If it's either a threat or reward or both. Limbic, yes, right? So we experience power attempts on the limbic level. We make sense of them in the prefrontal cortex. Oh, here's what they're doing, right? They're threatening to sue me. Okay, so there's a threat to some of my forms of power because there's somebody threatening to sue my company, right? Or me personally, right? Or somebody's offering me an incredible job opportunity with a fantastic salary that's hitting me in the reward center, trying to induce me to take that job offer, right? That's what's happening. And so I'm going to go through forms of power, but understand they can show up in a threat or reward vector. Also, you got to remember this about power. Power doesn't exist as a quality of a person. It exists in the relationship between people. Okay? So, let's start with material power. I'll explain it and then I'll show you what I mean by that. So material power is really the forms of power that relate to personal and collective survival. So, food, water, shelter, the things that sustain us are material power, right? But in societies like we live in, we have proxies for those things. So I don't offer you a bag of grain as part of your salary that you can take home and turn into flour and feed your family with. In this culture, although that does happen and has happened in history, right? That's how the peasant class paid their taxes to the king in sacks of grain, right? That was the survival value, right? Okay. Access to water, access to shelter, things that we need on that base level of survival that Maslow would talk about. That's material power. But today, it's more like in terms of money, which we exchange for those things, right? So money is a proxy for material power. And money can be turned into, I've got more lawyers than you've got. I can tie you up in court for years, right? I can sue you and get money from you, or if my case is strong enough, or if you don't have strong enough lawyers. So it can be down to fists, or it can be down to, I've got a whole military behind me, right? That's material power for reward and coercive perspectives, right? So I could say to you, hey, I want you to come and work with my practice, and I'm going to give you $1 million salary every year. And you're going to go, sweet, right? Like, yeah, right. My reward center's going off, and that sounds like a pretty enticing deal. Except, what if you're Jeff Bezos? $1 million, really? Come on, I make $4 or $5 billion in, the 2 months out of the year. What do I want your $1 million for, right? So it's in the relationship. It depends on you and me. Or you might say, well, you're a psychologist, right? I mean, you'd probably be okay, but you can't probably pay all your people $1 million a year to work for you, right? And you'd be right about that. Okay. So you're like, well, you're bluffing. You're lying, right? So it's all in the relationship. Or if I took a vow of poverty, it doesn't matter how impoverished I am. Money is the root of all evil. I don't want money, right? I want to rely on the graciousness of other people in my life, things like that. So all forms of power exist in the relationship, not in the person. I have all the money in the world, but if you don't care about money, right, it doesn't matter. You could have all the money in the world, and we have a nuclear holocaust, and you survive and I survive. Your money means nothing to me now. It's who's got canned goods. That's material power in a post-apocalyptic world. Who's got cans of food? And even more, who's got a can opener? Okay? And if you got lots of cans, and I got lots of cans, but I don't have a can opener, you got the power. You got the material power. Right? So it's all about the conditions, all about the relationships. Okay? So, legitimate power is what we are all using right now to conduct this class. I have the legitimate power by virtue of the University of Windsor and the Odette School of Business to say I get to be your prof, right? But you are using legitimate power too to be here because you earned your way into being a master's student. And if you weren't, you wouldn't be here, and you couldn't be here. I mean, I let people come into my classes, but technically I could throw anybody out of the class who's not legitimately here, right? I just have to like indicate most of it. But so legitimate power is being, and you're increasing your legitimate power by getting a degree. So legitimate power is, you know, officer to soldier, parent to child, boss to employee, right? All of those kinds of things. We acknowledge the legitimacy on the basis of the institutions that we exist in. And I lose my legitimate power the minute the marks go in. I go from being your prof to having been your prof. Okay? And as soon as I submit the grades, got no more power, right? None. I had to have knee surgery this time last year, and the person who did my knee surgery, I taught introductory psychology to years before. I didn't remember him, but he remembered me and said, "You were my prof." And I said, "Okay, if you don't do a good job on the surgery, I'm going back and changing your mark." We had a good laugh, and he did a good job. Because this time last year I was walking around with a cane, and now I'm not. So, anyway, yeah, I lose my power at that point, right? So, so expert power is what I hope you're giving me, but you don't necessarily have to. You may say, there's nothing to this psychology stuff. I just memorized this so I can get through and get my degree, okay? You don't have to give psychology any expert power, or me as a psychologist any expert power. It's up to you as to whether or not you do that or not. Some people don't believe in anything that economists say, for instance, right? Oh, economists, it's not real science. People with business. I listen to economists. They know things I don't know. I give them expert power. Information power is more transient. Experts have information power, but you don't even have to be an expert to have information power. Because I could say, you know, I know who's taking out the team. And you go, oh, who? Right? And the minute I tell you, I've lost that information power.
Gatekeeping.
You can use that, right? Or you could say, I don't really care. Grow up. Like, you know, people can date whoever they want. It's none of our business and not affecting the team, right? And so you're dismissive of that information power. You're not interested. So a physician has expert power, but they give you, when you go, because your elbow hurts, information power. Here's what you need to do to take care of your elbow. But now that next time my knee hurts, well, I've got to go back to them for new information. Right? Or new medication or something, because what I learned there doesn't make me an expert over my knee at that time, right? So spies are trained experts in how to get information. So they have spycraft. They call it spycraft. That's the training that they get, but then they got to go get the information, bring it back. News media, same thing. Reporters got to go out there, get information, put together a story, and tell the story, right? So they are experts at being reporters, but they've got to continually get information for stories. Even meteorologists, people that predict the weather, they know how to predict the weather. I don't, but I have a weather app every day. I check the weather, right, to know how to dress. And they've got to keep feeding me new information. If they tell me, well, the weather last week was this, it's like, well, I already know the weather. That's not information to me. I don't care, right? So that's information power. Refer power is kind of unique amongst all the forms of power. They're all unique, but this one is the one that has to be personal. It is the power of liking, loving, respect, and admiration. Okay? I told you Lieutenant Colonel Don Beatty and Major Bob Beck, right? Or Lieutenant Colonel Bob Beck. That's positive refer power. Okay? And now, I mentioned Captain Mike Mitchell. That's negative refer power. bad things to do. We were trained for this, but he was all this narcissistic, grandiose narcissist. He was a big fella, he'd strut around like he's so cool. We found and we identified the ball that had fallen off an aircraft, okay? And we know what to do. We are fully trained to know what to do. It had gone into the ground, it had not gone off, it was an error, it fell off the aircraft at the end of a runway, never had been found, it was way out in the woods. We found it. We knew. Tape off the area, immediately report its position, and tape it off from a big distance, because even tremors in the ground can set off an unstable ordnance. That's what happens. So we tell him, because he's our OIC, our officer in command at the time. He says, where is it at? And we give him the grid reference. So he drives his truck out to it, creating even more vibrations in the ground, drives up to it, pulls it out of the ground, puts it in the back of his truck, and drives onto the base to take it to the military police headquarters. Okay? Like, even you guys know this is a really stupid idea, but he's doing it because he's like, oh, that's so cool, I'm not afraid of anything, I'm just gonna take it in and give it to the MPs. He goes in and goes, I found a bomb. And they go, okay, what are their grid coordinates? They say, oh, it's in my truck. That was the end of his career. Okay? It took a few months, charges and things like that. So he got thrown out of the Canadian Forces for that. I just pulled a bomb out of the ground with my truck. What a great story, right? That was the end of his career. That's not the reason I hated him, because he made us all feel like we were this big. He just belittled us, demeaned us, made us feel like that. Okay, I didn't know what a grandiose narcissist was then. I was 18 at the time. But I sure remember how he made me feel. Okay, so negative referent power with him, positive referent power with those other people. Okay, and now it doesn't have to be both ways, because if you have a sports star that you admire and you love that sport, and you play that sport, and they endorse a pair of running shoes, those are probably running shoes you want to buy. He didn't know you or she doesn't know you, but those are the shoes that they wear, and they're doing a celebrity endorsement or social influencers, right? Give them referent power. So that's referent power. It's the power of liking, loving, respect, admiration. And that's what narcissists and all the dark traits can't actually have. They try to induce you to feel it for them, but they can't actually feel it. They can't actually love their children. They can't actually be loyal to anybody. This is the foundation of loyalty and the foundation of betrayal. You're dating somebody and you think, hey, we're exclusive, we're only dating each other, and then you find out they're dating somebody else. That's going to lead from very positive referent power to very negative referent power very quickly. I've been betrayed, right? I've been betrayed. But somebody I don't know can't betray me. Somebody I have no feeling about can't betray me, right? In that sense. But we could feel that for a politician who doesn't do what we vote for them because they promise to do certain things and then they don't. My feelings about Pierre Trudeau, I was the father of Justin Trudeau, also a prime minister, past prime minister. Our only case, by the way, where a son has become a prime minister, not your father. But my feelings about Justin Trudeau have changed over time, quite radically. So I really feel, in my view, it's time for him to move on. But when he was coming in, it was like, absolutely better than who we had at the time, right? Now, other people have always hated him, and other people still love him. It's very subjective. It's that right. So, referent power can change. Exchange right now, those are the source forms. They're the foundational forms. Composite forms are combinations of the above. And there's no magic formula as to which form goes together to make one, so they can all come together. So for example, exchange power is simply, I want a pair of jeans and you want to sell a pair of jeans. So I want the jeans more than the money, you want the money more than the jeans, and we make an exchange, okay? Now here's a point that I should have made earlier because it applies to all forms of power. These work on the level of the schoolyard to the United Nations. All 13 forms of power operate on every single level of analysis, right? So kids in the backseat of the car, quit it, no, you're punching me, no, you're pinching me. Okay, I won't punch you if you don't pinch me. Okay. That's exchange power, okay? That's exchange power, and it's that I'll stop if you stop. You start, I'll start, right? But if you stop. But countries do that. Hey, right? We won't attack you if you don't attack us. That's a non-aggression treaty. Okay?
So it works on every single level of analysis. You know, Trump hates Canada, but all previous presidents, that was a new experience for Canada, having a president hate us. Most presidents were like, oh, Canada, you're okay, right? Or, yeah, we love Canada, or something like that. But Trump absolutely hates Canada. And so that's negative reference power for the nation. And of course, we're very concerned that Trump will get back in, and that sort of thing. So all of these forms of power work on every single level of analysis. Doesn't matter. So exchange power is just, I'll do this for you if you do this for me, right? I hate doing the garbage. My sister hates doing the dishes. I'll do the dishes. She takes the garbage. Exchange power, right? And you know, a basic employment agreement is exchange power. I exchange my labor for money. You agree to pay me. I agree to come in every day and deliver on my commitment, you know, for the salary you're paid. Network power is something that existed before social media, believe it or not, but social media has amplified our network power. Network power is your local narrative comes from your network, right? We're born into a society, into a place and time. We get to know people, we have neighbors, we have family members, and that sort of thing. And it's a reliance on not direct forms of power you have, but the power that people in your network have. So a few summers ago, my best civilian friend says, hey Ted, do you know any of your clients hiring for summer jobs? You know, Isaac, his son, needs a summer job. And had I, you know, instead of telling him the clients that I knew were hiring for summer jobs, they said, Isaac's needs a summer job, we'll take him, okay? So he you know, he just used his network and found his son a summer job. You know, because he's brilliant, like he's fantastic. He's a great member of our team. He's now at Royal Military College, you know, in the Navy. But we got a great summer work with him. That was through Dave's network. I'm part of that. But Dave is an engineer and really good at fixing things. And I'll say, Dave, you know, we want to put a new lock on our front door. What's the best lock to get? Oh, Ted, you know, get this lock, right? You know, he knows it. So he's got information power and expert power from that. I don't know. I go to Canadian Tire and I look at a bunch of locks. What do I know? You know, I know different prices, but he says, no, that one's overpriced. Don't get that one. Get this one, right? Oh, I'll help you install it. Oh, really? Thanks. Okay. So that's network power. The internet has advanced or helped us expand our network, and I hope that if you're comfortable with it, you connect with me and we will be part of each other's network through LinkedIn. Okay? Invitation guaranteed. Don't just follow, right? Just reach out, I will connect, and it'll be direct. You can also do the same thing with our practice page on LinkedIn if you wish to. Okay, Folks Leadership Group, we put announcements out about all kinds of things through that link as well. Inclusion exclusion power is something that is very much central to the 3 C's. Because we talk about the whole benevolence, the whole compassionate element of it, saying I'm in group. Remember we were talking about oxytocin and how that can spin me off to be out group. If you come to me with a problem and I say, well, it sucks to be you, right? You're gonna be like, yeah, you're out group, right? And I'm gonna have some strong referent feelings about you on the basis of that. You're a jerk, okay? But if I say, okay, problems are solvable, thanks for bringing that to me, let's figure this out together, I'm doing inclusion, right? And so inclusion, exclusion, we like to be included, but not always do we like to be included, because sometimes we want to be not part of something. And this happened to me when I was on a long bus ride. I was on leave from Cold Lake, Alberta. I was in civilian clothes. I was in the middle of a bus. It was mostly empty. It was a Greyhound bus. There's a bunch of guys who were about my age and very white like me, okay, 9 of them at the back of the bus on this, 9-hour bus drive from the top of Alberta to the bottom of Alberta. And they were hurling racial slurs at the women and children at the front of the bus. They were all indigenous people, and they were making these horrific kinds of slurs, firing them. And then what they wanted to do is they were drinking in the back, I could tell, like you could kind of smell the alcohol. And at this point, the bus driver and I had locked eyes. I was in the middle of the bus, but he had a big mirror so you could sort of see what was going on back there and you could hear it. And I got eye contact with him in the mirror and kind of knew, okay, right? they come up to me as they're drinking more, and they're like, hey, come on, hey, let's start, and they're inviting me to start sending racial slurs and saying these things to people at the front of the bus. And I did not want to be included. So they're making an overture, hey, you're like us, come join us, start, here, have a drink, right? That kind of stuff going on. When I rejected their inclusion offer, what happens? They started attacking me, right? They're starting, oh yeah, well, you're on this and you're on that, and this kind of thing. Fortunately, the bus driver, I knew the route because I'd been on it a number of times. We were about an hour and a half away from the next stop, and the bus driver knew what was going on. I knew I was not going to have anything to do with this, and when we arrived at the next rest stop along the way, 4 RCM cars were just happening to wait there in the parking lot, and the 9 gentlemen who were at the back of the bus, and I use that sarcastically as gentlemen because they were escorted off the bus and did not continue on with us. Okay, so I rebuked their invitation to join. I didn't want to be part of it, right? So it's but inclusion is a big deal when you want to be part of it, and if you're excluded, right? That's a big deal, right? You can't come to my party. I mean, well, I didn't even want to go to the party. But then we, just little kids in the schoolyard, right? And then okay, we'll be friends again. Okay, you come to my party, right? So, but that's the inclusion exclusion problem, right? In the schoolyard. But you heard of the G8? Okay, is it sort of a group of the more developed countries in the world that get together and they have conferences all the time? Well, Russia is part of the G8. And now, the G8 is now the G7, because the G8 said, you guys can't come to our party because you invaded Ukraine. So until you get out of Ukraine, you can't be part of the G8, we'll be the G7. Exclusion power. And it was like, I didn't want to be in. Okay? So it works at every single level, all of these forms of power. So that's inclusion, exclusion. Superordinate and subordinate power, they're not the same, but they're complementary. So superordinate power is giving you an offer you can't refuse, either by threat or by reward or by both. Okay? So I use overwhelming forms of these power to get you to comply. Right? I'm going to give you these, $1 million to go work with us with benefits and a company car and all the rest. But okay, and you're going to how could I refuse that? Or it can be, do it, comply, or I'm going to sue you and I'm going to keep you in court for years to come, right? And so that's overwhelming power is what Trump tries to use. He'll hire contractors to do work, and then he'll say, you're not worth that. I'll pay you 1/10 of what we contracted for. And if you come back at me, I'll sue you, right? So that's superordinate power, right? Where you're just sort of overwhelming with other forms. Subordinate power is a little bit interesting. It's fascinating to me. It's true. In the schoolyard, it's my dad can beat up your dad. Okay, I can't do it, but I subordinate myself to my dad, and he can take it on, right? Now Canada does this with the United States. Our Army, Navy, and Air Force is 70,000. That'll fit on the standard average size military base in the United States. We are fundamentally reliant upon the Americans, and we're off. We can't move, right? And they can't move us. So we have been subordinating ourselves to the Americans forever. So much so that when they wanted to go into Iraq for war, they said, "Canada, you coming?" They said to England and a couple other countries too. And everybody said, no, I think you got to go alone. But Canada couldn't do that too long, so we said, okay, we won't go into Iraq, but we'll go to Afghanistan. And that led to our longest war in history, okay, for Canada. But Canada didn't want to be there. We did it because we subordinate ourselves, so there's an obligation we have to the United States. If we want to rely on their protection, we gotta suck up to them and comply. There's a give and a take in that kind of situation. Hillary Clinton did this with Barack Obama. So Hillary realized she was running against Barack Obama for the Democratic nomination to run in the election, and Barack ultimately got it and then became president, right? But in the run-up up to that, she said she thought she could beat Barack, and then she would be the one, eventually she did, obviously she really against Trump and lost. But she said, okay, Barack, I see you got more delegates in your camp than I do in mine, but you're still haven't reached the threshold to become the Democratic lead. So if I get my delegates to support you, right, and there would be some backroom dealing there, she eventually threw her support to him. And then when he became president, she becomes Secretary of State. I think that's the third or fourth highest in the United States. Not a bad deal, right?
No.
So, okay, I'm not president, but landed pretty darn good out of that. So that's a subordinate strategy where you let little kids do it and people and nation states do it, okay? So that's subordinate. And reality shaping. I'm not gonna get into these. These are the newest forms we've identified. They're more indirect, they're more obtuse. The 10 are the ones that you're gonna see and recognize most easily. Reality shaping power, right back to the grand narrative, the local narrative, and your own identity, right? This is how we come to see what is real and what is not real, what we believe about ourselves, what we believe about our nation, what we believe about anything. That's reality shaping power. And this is absolutely critical. This is, well, let me show you where it goes. It's not the most important form of power, but no leader can exert power without having people giving them reality shaping power, right? So the lovable stars are going to have the greatest reality shaping power. Not that they're always right, but that people are going to be most likely to believe in them. And the incompetent jerks are going to have virtually no reality shaping power. If I did what Captain Mike Mitchell told me to do, it was only because he had the legitimate power to tell me, but I had no confidence that it was the right thing to do, or the smart thing to do. But if one of those lieutenant colonels I mentioned, Bob Beck or Don Beatty said so, I had every confidence that it was the right thing to do, right? And they wouldn't ask me to do something that wasn't the right thing to do. So reality shaping power is the ability to shape other people's view of reality. I hope I'm having that with you, but I can't control that. If you give me reality shaping power, it's between us, and I've had to earn it in your eyes, and maybe I never did, okay? I can't control that. So, where does this take us? Back to the 3 C's, okay? Here's the thing, there is more. When people relate to you as a lovable star, they're very likely to grant you very high degrees of reality shaping power. That's gonna give you the most power in that position of leadership, to be in that position to help everybody through to achieving the mission for the day, the week, the month, or overall. It's the single most important form of the 13 forms that leaders need to receive from their followers, but it's in the relationship. So team members see them as calm, confident, compassionate, far more likely to embrace the leader's answers to what's happening, what's it mean to us, and what are we gonna do about it, the 3 core leadership questions, right? When Ryan called me on that Sunday morning, what's happening, what's it mean to us, what are we gonna do about it, right? Those are the questions I had to answer throughout the day for the team, and the team helped me answer those questions, because I took it to them and said, here's the situation we're facing. I know what it means to us. We could lose this contract entirely and never work with this corporation again. What are we gonna do about it? Okay, well, here's the things we can do to try and mitigate that, and we'll need 3 extra weeks to do that, okay? So when people embrace the leader's answers to these questions, far more likely to invest in the mission, to collaborate with each other, to set that common direction. So here's how this all comes together. More of the course here. Leader and team member behavior. When they behave in such a way that there's the unethical use of social power, absolutely going to be done by anybody with a dark trade, but any of us can engage in dishonest or unethical behavior. So that leads to mistrust. Trust is a measure of how I expect you to use your power in relation to me. Okay, that's what's happening with trust. It's only about power. That's all it is. And you saw this and the next one in workbook number 2, when you were looking at that scale about high-functioning teams. What are the qualities of high-functioning teams? And the 2 requisite questions, the first 2, were about trust and psychological safety. If I don't trust how you use your power, I don't feel psychologically safe. that means I'm hit on Olympic level, right? And I'm wary, I'm watching out for how you're gonna throw me under the bus, right? Or how you're gonna lead me in a bad direction that's gonna have a bad outcome for me and the team. And that leads to impaired prefrontal cortex performance because I go limbic. I'm looking around for threats, right? And so I go limbic. We know what happens. We go limbic. We go down in the IQ domain, and we're into the self-survival mode. That leads to impaired operational performance. When people are limbic, they are not able to bring their best to the table. But on the other side, when leader and team members are using their power ethically, what that leads us to is trust. We trust our team members. We trust our leader. That leads to psychologically safe culture. That is the norm, right? To this day, when somebody new comes into our practice, probably within the first month, some of the team who were there when we had to face that situation multiple years ago, because that was number 5 iteration, and we're on number 8 right now, so that was like, 6 years ago that all that unfolded, as well before the pandemic. They tell that story. They don't name names, but they say, this is how we responded to this crisis. Saying, you can trust here that you can bring stuff forward and identify if you made a mistake because you won't get thrown under the bus. That's creating that psychologically safe culture. That creates optimum prefrontal cortex performance. That leads to operational performance at the optimum. This is how we produce high functioning, sustainable high functioning, high performance teams. By creating a culture where people know that the way you and others will use their power is in a way that is calm, confident, and compassionate. Okay? All comes together right there in the course. So here's what I want to leave you with, and this is where I started the course. The world's in a period of uncertainty and reformation, not like any of us have ever lived through. It's going to take leadership, and all that leadership is about, to not only adapt, but also shape what this world will look like. Business is at the forefront of shaping the world. We're not going back to the way it was. So it's up to all of you to say what our world will look like going forward. It's Dr. Alan Conway, previous dean of this very business school in 2012, well before the pandemic. But he recognized we're in a different world at the time, and he also realized that business is going to play an absolutely vital place. So my infusion here, understanding social power, is going to help equip you for the challenges that are yet to come. You guys are going to go out there and change the world. Okay. I got a son who's 20 years old. Some of you are going to probably end up being like his boss. I'm going to count on you to be the 3 C's and to use that power responsibly with him and everybody else, even if it's not him. Okay. But you guys have got a tremendous amount of responsibility, but also a tremendous amount of opportunity. VUCA worlds are not all bad, right? They present us with some massive challenges, but they're not all bad. There's opportunities that can happen in this time and space, and we're counting you guys to do that, okay? I have every confidence you're gonna do that. You're gonna make a huge difference. Business is the place. It's always been important. It has never been more important in the planet today. It's the place that culture is going to be shaped and reshaped for better and worse. I wish I could tell you it was going to be an easy task, but we all know it won't be. But I hope that something in this course has prepared you a little bit more for the exciting stuff that you're going to go out there and do. So keep me posted. That's what I
Thank you, Professor.
The team presentations, and there'll be 2 short answer questions. Okay? One of the short answer questions is going to be a case study where you're going to be drawing upon your knowledge from the course, all the course content, to solve the case. Now, I'm really not looking for you to solve the case. You can't, right? But what you can do is tell me how you'd approach solving the case using the material that you've learned in this course, okay? Including from the team presentations. Okay, so just consider team presentations. It's all part of the course, it's not separate, it's content that you could draw upon for addressing the case. The other question will be something like the one that I described earlier in that a couple of weeks ago, where now this is a question that I always describe and you can't answer it. It's not from this course, it's from community psychology. And so I'll say, in community psychology, it's very important before you launch a community change initiative to have an exit strategy. Okay, so now you know what it's about. It's about exit strategies. And I'll say, list and describe the 5 most common exit strategies community psychologists use. So you're going to list each one that has a name and then describe it in a few sentences. Okay? As much detail as you think you need. More is always better, and you'll have time. So that's not an issue. Then there'll be an next part. It'll say, what are the dangers of launching a community psych initiative without an exit strategy? Okay, well that's maybe a paragraph or 2. Okay. Could you close the? Oh, here's some. Could you close the door? Sure. Thank you. Well, when everybody comes in. Okay. So I'll say, list and describe the 5 common exit strategies community psychologists use in launching these initiatives. What are the dangers of not having an exit strategy at the outset of an intervention? And then I'll say, what are the 3 top exit strategies community psychologists tend to prefer? And why do they prefer these 3? Okay, and so that's going to be like another 3 short paragraphs. So you're not writing a formal essay. You're not restating the question. You're just getting down to answering, right, in that fashion. And if you have difficulty with multiple choice, by the way, see me after. I have some multiple choice strategies. I don't want to get into them now because some of you don't have a problem with them. But I can coach you on the best ways to attack a multiple choice question. So I'll do that in office hours if anybody's interested. So that'll be the style of the next question. But even with the case, I'm going to break down, how are you going to approach solving the case? So you can't solve it, but show me your thinking. And that means that there is no one right answer for the case, right? I've marked 2, I've done this many times, right? And 2 people have had very different approaches to solving the case, but they're both good, right? So that's possible. So it's not, what is the one right answer? It's what do I learn that I could deploy to solving this case, right? That's the key. And that's, if leadership was easy, then it would always have one right answer, and it never does. It never does. So that's one of the challenges. For the exam, you need your student card. You need a pencil and eraser for the multiple choice. The way the Scantrons work, they only read pencil. They don't read ink. So you gotta have a pencil, okay? Bring 2 or sharpen it. Use pencil, right? You can bring a pen and use a pen for the short answer if you wish, or use a pencil, it doesn't matter, okay? You'll, as I said, have 2 hours, which will be plenty of time for you to complete it in. I'll be there, so if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them as we go. So any questions about it? It's worth 30% of our final exam. Or our course. What's that?
The material got for the exam, when you send it?
Yeah, the material is just the stuff that I've uploaded and that you've learned in class. Yeah, so, and including the presentations. Presentations, right? So you want to study presentations as much as anything else. Okay. No surprises. I don't like. If you've been coming out, you've been studying material, you're going to do great, right? It's not easy. If you study, you're going to do great. That's people say, how do I do on your exam? Study hard, you'll do great. I'm not going to have any trick questions or stupid. I heard I had one prof in undergrad who was like, what's the correct spelling of my name? How narcissistic can you get? I don't care. All right. So none of that. It was for a bonus. none of that, yes.
Professor, just for my confirmation, the exam is going to be of MCQs, short answer question, and case answers, right?
Well, I consider the short answer, two short answer, one is case and one is just a journal question.
General based
Yeah.
How many marks each for the short one?
I haven't written it yet, okay, so I'm not sure. But there'll be about 40 multiple choice-ish, okay? Yeah. But it'll probably out of like 80 or something, or sorry, 90 marks, because then it just divide by 3 and you get 30% or 30% of your final grade.
questions, MCQs, and case.
I'll guarantee you, if you study hard, you'll do well.
Is it true or false, the multiple choice? Or
Sorry?
Is it true or false, like ABCD?
Yeah, there may be, true or false, I don't like them, because it's 50-50, right? But there'll probably be a few of those, but it'll probably be more like A, B, C, or D. There'll be more of those, okay? And again, if you, want multiple choice strategies, I'll talk about it, during office hours right after this. Okay, most of you probably found it, but I'm happy to coach you on it. There's some good psychology to it. It's not, when in doubt, pick C. That's definitely not a good strategy for multiple choice questions. So, any other questions for these guys? You're gonna bring your student card, you're gonna bring a pencil, an eraser, a pen, right? And you're gonna bring your hand, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, and I want you to bring your hand that you don't write with, okay? So in my case, it's this one, okay? Because here's what you're gonna do for your first multiple choice question, and all others that are gonna follow. So what your brain wants to do is it's limbic, right? It's like, I want the answer, right? And you know that one of those 4 is the answer, right? And so you want to jump to it. Now we got to work against the limbic system, right? This is a prefrontal solution. And we're going to draw upon the prefrontal in order to do the best we can against these multiple choice questions. So you're going to take that hand that you brought with you. And the first thing you're going to do before you read the question is you're going to cover the answers with your hand. Okay? You're going to cover the answers with your hand because your brain wants to cheat and wants to glance down. You're not going to let it. Okay? And so we're going to go through 3 steps. And each one is, if the first one doesn't work, that's great. You answer the question from there. If that doesn't work, you go to the next one. If that doesn't work, you go to the next one. Okay? And the next one is the last one, and it's the best we got. Okay? At that point. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to read the question with your hand covering the answers, and you're going to answer it in your head. So you read it through and you go, okay, that looks like that's an example of, and I'm picking something, we haven't covered this course, but that looks like an example of social loafing. Okay, so I've answered the question, okay? Now, I'm going to uncover the answers and I'm going to try and match my answer to the answers there, okay? And when I do, that's when I'm going to select. But read them all because the way that multiple choice questions are answered is 1 or maybe even 2 kind of right, but your task is not, you don't get part marks for the kind of right, you get the one, pick the one that is the most right? So read them all, don't stop at the point at which you think that answers it, you keep going, but you hold that on. Now, that's recall memory, and it's the strongest, it's the most reliable. But we can't always recall everything, okay? So, I go through, I've covered the questions, I go through or I've read the question and I go, I don't know what the answer is, okay? All right, well, now we're gonna go for recognition. So we recall, we ruled out because I don't know the answer. Now I'm gonna go for the recognition. So maybe one of the 4 is gonna jog my memory and I go, oh yeah, that was it, now I got it, okay? But again, go through them all and select the one that has jogged your memory. You go, yeah, that's the one, and you select that one, okay? Now, let's say you still don't know. None of them are jogging your memory or bringing that forward. So what you want to do is, and I encourage you to do this right from the beginning anyway, you're going to look at each of the answers and you're going to cross off the ones that you know are wrong. And well, you know it's not that one. And you can write right in the booklet,
Okay, so you can do whatever you want, okay? Cross it off, put a line right through it so it takes it away from your brain. Your brain doesn't look at things that are crossed off, right? It's wired for that. So if I can look at that and I go, I have no idea what the answer is, but I know it's not that one. I know it's not A, and I know it's not C. And I'm not sure if it's B or D, right? Well, what have I done now? Because I'm just going to make an educated guess between those two. But that's better odds than 1 in 4, right? I'm down to a 50-50 guess versus a 1 in 4 chance of being accurate. So you remove, even if you remove 1, you improve your chances of guessing. And I don't penalize for wrong answers like some profs do, where they take off 1.25 for every wrong answer. I don't do that. If you get the answer wrong, you just lose 1 mark, okay? So it's recall, and then it's recognition, and then it's educated guess. That's the way to attack. Do not go for that when in doubt pick C. Because the way that multiple choice questions work today, the answers are mixed up and randomized. So it may have been when professors actually wrote these themselves and then listed them that there was this bias, but it doesn't work that way anymore, right? The computer takes over, jumbles the answers, and right. So don't pick C if in doubt. Do the educated guess, right? Even if you can take 1 off, that's definitely not common, right? But, or you might even take off 3 and go, well, I guess that's the one because it's the one left over. I know these 3 are wrong. I don't know that that's right, but I know the other 3 are wrong, so I'll go with that one. So those are your best strategies. Use your head, okay? All right, so I'll see you at the exam. And I can stick around in my office hours. You got questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.